guest is no other person than Mallam Lanre-Issa Onilu, the Director-General National Orientation Agency. Thank you so much for joining us, Mallam Onilu.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And we'll take you through his profile just before we bring in our panelists. Mallam Lanre-Issa Onilu is a specialist in strategic public communication planning with vast experience in corporate and political communication, crisis communication, policy analysis, and development issues. He has acquired some courses in advanced public relations and media audience research at New York, United States. He's an associate member of the Public Relations Society of America and member of Public Relations Society of New York, a corporate member of the International Communications Conference, that is ICC, at the Barrage College, State University of New York, USA, member of Council of Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, and an associate member of the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria. He has worked as a media relations executive. He was once a journalist, policy and development issue strategist, public perception analyst, and communication planner in the last 33 years. We'll leave the profile there. Quite impressive, Mallam Onilu.
Thank you.
All right. Our panelist, one of our regulars, Laraba Mure, a reporter with the Abuja Inquirer newspaper. Laraba, always a pleasure to have you join us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
All right. So, Mallam Onilu, renewed hope, national orientation. There's a huge task before you. If you have to project government policies, talking about the agency now, programs and activities of the federal government, renewed hope, came on when this administration started. Something that we need, especially at these trying times of our country. There is that vital aspect of renewing the hope of Nigerians to be patriotic, to have that confidence again. Now, looking at, I know you just came on board. How have you, put your acts together within the short time as we project, forward?
Yeah, well, I think this is a straightforward thing. We all know the state that our country is, and we know that there's no way we can make any progress, any meaningful progress whatsoever, if we don't change our attitude.
Yeah.
And we know that there must be those structures that will support whatever attitude change we are talking about. And importantly, it couldn't have been a better time for us to do all of this than when you have a president who has the will and the courage, the determination, and is not afraid to take important but critical decisions, So you need that to be in place. So we are lucky to have him. Secondly, the renewed hope agenda itself. See, what lead anybody to become a kidnapper, a cultist, to do yahoo, all these things we complain about is when you think there is no hope for you to go positive. So if the positive route will lead you to success, that is hope. So but when you are in a state of despair, and then you begin to look for shortcuts, so, and criminality, lawlessness, and every other issue that has bedeviled this country is associated with lack of hope. So, that we have a government that is going to run on that mantra of renewed hope, it is the right time for us to have attitude change.
And if we want to look at reawakening our value system in Nigeria, the reorientation. I know just recently the Ministry of Information and National Orientation just launched the Values Charter, Nigeria's Values Charter, which we're hoping, will be launched in 2024, God willing. But that same reawakening value system for Nigerians, this is something we've had over time. And if you want to look at the strategy you want to put in place coming on board, what will you be doing differently this time around?
Exactly. You see, when people talk of orientation, I tell them we are not even at the stage of orientation. You see, when you talk of orientation, that means we have a destination, because orientation itself is a journey. So you want to take people from certain point, and through orientation, take them to another point. Have we defined the point that we want to take people to in Nigeria? If we ask the question and say, who is a Nigerian, what is the answer to that? So we first and foremost need to define who we are. So when we know who we are, then definitely we know who we are not.
Yes.
And in knowing who we are, then we will know we are not kidnappers. We are not armed robbers. We are not people who are violent. We are not criminals. We are not Yahoo. Or we are not cultists. You know, we are not prostitutes. All these are alien to our culture. So until we go back to that, but not just going back to it, you have to ensure that the issue, the challenge we had, and where we find ourselves where we are, is that over time, we have not clearly defined our national values. You can say, yes, it is in the chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, but when you have something in a document, you have to bring it to the street. Yeah. And you have to create institutions and structure that will nurture people to be able to express those values. In other countries, if you take for America, for example, you have the American dream, so which is over 100 years old. So if you go into the American dream, what you're going to find there, you find liberty, justice, pursuit of happiness, exceptionalism. These are the values they have put together over 100 years ago. And they have created structures to ensure that every American citizen is nurtured through these values. So as you become part of the society, these values are already embedded in you. Yeah. And then so in whatever you do, you express the values. So it should not surprise you when you see an American who is a filmmaker and is developing a script and ensure that in the script, no matter what battle, America must emerge victorious. Yeah. Because he has been told that he's the best person to have happened to this world as an American. You know, so in France, for instance, it's about family value. You know, it's about fashion. Those are part of their own values. So if you are not behaving that way, then they can say you are not a proper French. You know, so country to country, they have clearly defined value system. In Nigeria, we don't. As a Yoruba man, I know what the values of Yoruba is. If you are Hausa, if you are whatever tribe, there are values. And for you to say somebody is not a good representative of that particular tribe, then you know what you are talking about. You can point out and say this value is ours, but you are not part of it. You are not expressing it. What of Nigeria? Do we have? We don't. So we thought, before you even talk of orientation, you have to define the destination. And that destination is where we want to go. How should Nigerians look? What should be the attribute of a typical Nigerian? So we need to bring all of this into reckoning and make it a national definition of who we are. Then we can now begin to have this orientation to take ourselves to become that, so that we all can be an embodiment of those values. And it's easy. We're not going to create anything new. Every tribe, like I said, has those positive values already. So what we need to do is to aggregate our values, subnational values, and bring them up and say this is Nigerian value. So we can all now, you know, grow to become the good ambassador of those values. And then they can say you are a good Nigerian because you are representing those values. So we don't have them in place. So the National Lifestyle Charter that we are working on, which you alluded to, which the minister announced the committee members just about a week ago, and they are at work now, is to finalize this document. And then the president, hopefully early next year, will unveil the document, and then we'll now put structures in place, build it into our institutions, ensure that when you are born as a Nigerian, you are taken through school, you meet this value system as part of your study. It becomes compulsory. In curriculums? In curriculums. Okay. You know, it becomes part of our curriculum, and not just in formal education. We are going to ensure that both formal, informal, and vocational educational systems, this is there. So when you train to become a carpenter, and the day they are giving you a certificate that you've emerged, you are qualified to go and practice as a carpenter, part of what you have learned is also how to be a proper Nigerian. So this is what we are looking at.
Okay.
And we'll talk some more on it.
Okay, Laraba?
Okay, so I still want to take us back to the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda and what the agency is doing, because you talked about Nigerians still not understanding or not knowing who they are. How is the agency now? I know we talked about what the Ministry of Information has said recently, but how is the ministry doing in its own initiatives to ensure that Nigerians are beginning to understand who they are before the launch of what the Ministry of Information is doing?
Yeah, well, you see, like I said, the first thing you need to do is to create a goal, an objective.
Okay.
So the objective is to define who we are. So that's what we are doing now.
Okay.
And this definition, once we have it, which is not, like I said, it's not going to be anything strange. It's who we are already. But we lost our way because those values are there, but we are now becoming who we are not. And that's why we are talking of violence, we are talking of banditry, we are talking of Boko Haram, we are talking of IPOB, we are talking of all those things that are making our country to look like it's a state of nature.
Yeah.
You know, so so that's the definition we are trying to put in place. Then when you get to school, then you can now begin to see that as part of your study. Because when you leave your university, you're given a certificate that says you have been found worthy in learning and character. Yeah. But we all know that we don't go to school to learn character. So the only way to learn the character aspect is through this value system. Because the value system would define what character we are supposed to have. And that's where we're going to have group identity as Nigerians. And then we have a lifestyle that they say this is the lifestyle of a Nigerian. So wherever you go in the world, they see you, they say, oh, you must be a Nigerian.
Okay. I'm just curious. When you're painting a picture of how it's going to look like, talking about the lifestyle of Nigerians, what strategy is the agency going to, deploy? Because I know the agency over time has consistently, raised awareness on positive change of attitudes, behaviors, and all of that. And we always talk about values at home. They say charity begins at home, and the eroding values you're talking about. Now, how will it look like? When you said this is a true identity of a Nigerian, what is the picture like? What are the, criteria?
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. See, the difference between what has been happening, whether in NOA or in government, as far as the issue of values is concerned, is that this time around, it's not going to be just sloganeering.
Okay.
We're going to have clear definition, and there will be structures and institutions put in place to ensure that this now become part of us. And for instance, 2024, you recall that we used to have what we call Boy Scouts, Girls Guides, Girls Brigades in school.
Yes.
So this were children that were nurtured from that age as leaders, who try to be exemplary, who try to do things in a way that people can be proud of them.
Yes.
And those who were not Boy Scouts or Girls Guides, used to feel inferior to them because they were models.
Yeah.
So we need to recreate this, because that vacuum was created in schools. Our youth had nothing positive to engage them. The society, the government had not put things in place to engage the youth at their formative ages. So what did they have? They had idle hands, and then the devil moved in. So, and then you now have cultists right from secondary school now. You have prostitutes right from secondary school now. Because there's so much idleness, and they are not engaged positively. So now this time around, we are launching 37,000 citizen brigades in schools by 2024. That is 1,000 per state and FCT.
Okay.
To pioneer this. So, and this 37,000...
That way you're creating jobs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this 37,000 secondary school students who are going to be part of the citizen brigades are going to be given this education about what our values are. And these values, the lifestyle, they begin to exhibit it. And then they become the models immediately, model citizens. And so their peers begin to see them as people to emulate. And then from there, we're going to also create volunteers. You, myself, everybody, you can be volunteer, which means we have accepted that I want to be one of the pioneers of these values. I want to be early ambassadors, you know, of these values. So I want to be an exhibitor of these values. So we are going to use that, you know, at that level. And like I said, curriculum also. It has to be a compulsory subject. That when you're in primary school, you're taught what the values are. And when you get to secondary school, you still see it as compulsory subject. Then when you get to the tertiary institution, it's also part of your general studies, you know, your compulsory subject. So when you graduate, then you will have truly earned the certificate that says you have been found worthy in learning and character. And when you emerge into the society, you're going to be one of the best of us. You're going to become a governor, a minister, an engineer. Anywhere you go, people see your lifestyle depicting the best of our values.
How would they be selected? Just out of curiosity.
It's not. That's
it's
not
open.
It's open.
Okay.
But you know, we have to grow it. We expect that in the number of years to come, 2, 3, 4 years, millions of our youth
would have keyed into it.
Yeah. You know, and that just how to, you know, move people away from negativity to positivity.
Yeah.
You know, so but you have to create models, because the models we have now, because there was vacuum, we have models now that are very negative. So what our people, our children are seeing now that has permeated the society are completely negative. So because if you go to social media and you see people who are becoming role models, you don't want your children to follow them. Exactly. But they are the only ones available. So we have to provide alternative.
Yes.
Okay, I know what we are actually talking about right now, if I'm right, is how to reorient people on the values of the society. But I'll still take us back to the renewed hope. Yeah. What is the agency doing? Okay, now that is for the secondary school up onto the volunteering level. Yeah. But what is still the agency doing? I know that the renewed hope agenda is just 7 months in. So, but what is the agency doing? Because there's some of the programs that or policies that is already in play. You know, like the conditional cash transfer. So what is the policy, what is the agency doing? Yeah,
very good question.
Yes.
Just yesterday, we finished a retreat. Okay. First of its kind in NOA.
That's the clean.
The clean, thank you, clean. And clean is spelled as CLHEEAN. Yeah. And each letter is standing for certain subject matter that has to do with government policies and programs, and has to do with the challenges we are facing in the society. Yeah. So, excuse me. So what we are trying to do is to tie all the MDAs that are relevant to all these challenges that the communities are facing, tie them to the partners, international and local partners, who are also involved in all of these things that the communities are facing. Then tie them to the communities themselves. Okay. So that when we do baseline study early next year, and we're able to identify what a particular community is facing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then we work with the relevant agencies, we will work with the relevant partners and the leaders of the community, the traditional rulers, the religious leaders, youth leaders, women leaders in the community, to begin to clean the community of those challenges. That's where that acronym, CLEAN, comes from. And so you see, many of the government programs that we are supposed to communicate, there was no structure to communicate it. But now we are putting structure in place. In another 2-3 weeks, our studio will be ready for both TV and radio. So on a daily basis, we can package our programs on government policies. We are launching by January 1st week what we call the explainer. That every Friday, whatever has happened for the week regarding policies of government, we're going to break it down to ensure that people are adequately informed and educated about those programs. And at the end of the month, we will tie up everything that has happened in the month through several publications, through our studio, and through our radio, both radio and TV studios, and ensure that people, we bring in experts, we bring in desk officers who are responsible for some of those programs to come and speak to them. There are many policies that people actually don't understand.
Yes, there's a huge gap.
Exactly. So I can give a quick example.
Go ahead.
When the government lifted so-called ban on the 43 items, many Nigerians, including educated people, they didn't know that government never banned those 43 items. They were never banned, not one of them, not for one day, not for 1 second, were they banned. What government did was to say these 43 items, you're not going to have access to official foreign exchange. That is what was banned. But for you to bring it in, go and source your foreign exchange, and then you can bring it in. So they were never banned. Nobody was banned from importing them. But you cannot come to the banks to look for a foreign exchange. So, but when government said we have lifted the ban, people thought those things were banned from coming to this country. Can you see the difference?
Lack of awareness.
The question now arose. If you say you're trying to grow our productivity in the country, you want our manufacturing companies to grow, and so you need to control importation. You want to turn us to a production company rather than a productive consumer nation. So if you want to do that, why would you allow these 43 items to be coming? They were never banned, but they didn't have access to official exchange, called a foreign exchange. So there was a gap in that. Even now, when people complain of hardship in the country, and then you ask, and then they say, since this government came, there has been hardship. We were not in, enjoyment before this government came. And whatever hardship that has happened now, it's like having a building, and you have a caretaker who knew that building was defective, and you needed to bring it down. But because of how the tenant will feel, he refused to bring the house down. And so, but ultimately, we all knew that the house might collapse and injure this tenant. But you now have a caretaker who says, see, we cannot continue like this, otherwise this building will come down. Let's move out. Let's bring it down. Let's rebuild. Let's have a solid foundation and have solid structure, and then we now move in. Of course, we know that during the time that this building is being put in place, there will be some issues. We'll be beaten by rain, we'll be beaten by sun. So the choice before us is to say, okay, you should have allowed us to remain in that building and allow it to collapse on us, or let's sacrifice to give you time and ensure that quickly you lay solid foundation and a new building is provided, and we now move in and enjoy ourselves. So we need to also enlighten people to say, yes, there is hardship. There was hardship. There is hardship. It may have increased. Yes. Why did it happen? Because there's a need to go back and ensure that right from the foundation, we rebuild. Okay,
Mallam Onilu, and that falls directly on your purview, on projecting these ideals. Now, I know to support the renewed hope agenda, MDAs have to come up with policies, to forge a strategic alliance. Now, for you, from what you're sharing with us, that was just one example you gave. It's a huge task. It's a responsibility that can be challenging. Now, but how are you expecting, to go about these policies? Let's take the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, which is very key for this administration, lifting, poverty alleviation. There are a lot of misinformation out there. What is the synergy you're having with MDAs to project these policies out there for the people to understand, going forward?
Yeah, see, as I said, the reason for the retreat that just ended yesterday was to bring all the MDAs to NOA.
Okay, Mallam Onilu, can you hold that thought for me? Let's take this quick break. We'll be back. Please stay tuned.
What are we doing as a nation to, first of all, settle our teeming populace, especially the
NTA's political package with a third eye on the nation's political scene. I am Fisa Ogunfuyi. Welcome.
You have to be very careful giving space to people who are obviously sponsored to further the agenda of some other groups.
There's a lot of questions. A lot of questions in a closed-door sessions. Some of these issues, some of the problems bedeviling their
In fact, between June 1st and July 17, 19-point-something billion has left the coffers of the NDDC.
I can say my constituency, they need everything because we don't have anything.
Welcome back. Good to have you there. The conversation is still on renewed hope and national orientation. Mallam Onilu, you were just going to answer my question on carrying the people along with MDA's policies.
Yeah,
go ahead.
You see, the need for the retreat that we just ended was to re-engineer the processes of engagement and collaboration with the MDAs and with the communities and with the partners. So we had that retreat and the turnout was massive. Many of the MDAs were represented by high-level staff. And so we work together, and now we have a communique, and we all understand what we want to do and how we want to go about it. See, NOA is already configured to be able to assist the government in getting this information down to the grassroots with our 36 state offices and FCT, and our offices in all the local governments in the country, the 774 local governments. So you have over 800 offices nationwide.
Yeah.
So we are right at the grassroots. Part of what we are doing now is also to even restructure personnel in the sense that I can come here in the next 3 months or 4 months to boast that we speak every Nigerian dialect in NOA. That's where we are going. That we speak every single dialect. So because we are going to ensure that we are in any place you get to, whatever language they speak there, that's an NOA staff who speak that language. Because if you're going to communicate with people, the first barrier to remove is language barrier.
Yes, yes.
You know, so we are working towards that. And we are going to ensure that our structure responds to the structure of the society so that there can be synergy. You know, so with this structure well laid out, like I said, we're also creating now platforms, because after structure, the next thing you need to do is to have platforms that you're going to use to engage. So we have the structure, we have the offices, we have down to the grassroots. Then the platforms, I mentioned the TV studio, the radio studio, the publications. We are also going to launch a mobile app in the next 2 weeks.
I was just going to ask you about a portal.
Called the Mobilizer.
Okay.
The mobile app is going to be highly interactive and engage with the youth, because this is a population, you know, in Nigeria, our population demographics. The analysis shows that about 72% of our population is below the age of 35. That's over 160 million of us are below the age of 35. So whatever program we are packaging, whatever policies that we are doing as a government, whatever communication that we are doing, must bear in mind that 72% of us are below the age of 35. So we must speak their language. We must relate with them on those devices that they know. So social media, new media,
and they spend most of their time on social media.
Exactly. So you need to meet them. So we must understand their media habits, where they source their information, and ensure we take our messages to them. But we also must ensure that the messages we are taking to them are fact, because the generation, that is Gen Z and the millennials, are very sensitive, you know, generations. So you must ensure that and this government has said from the beginning and has demonstrated that the president said he is not going to deceive anybody. He will be as transparent as possible. And he knows that he's a human being. Even when there are mistakes, he will admit it and correct himself. And he has done that over time. So this is how to build confidence. This is how to create renewed hope. So when that is in place, the next thing you need to do is to key in as NOA and ensure that the messages get to the right people and at the right time and through the right platforms.
So you've mentioned a lot of programs here that I'm actually going to look forward to, but I'd like to talk about funding. All these programs that you mentioned, conscientizing the citizens, bringing up an app and a lot of other things, and then we are also in the era of budget defense for the 2024. Is the agency's funding sufficient to carry out these activities?
Yeah, well, let me start by saying no MDA has enough funding. And it's because the government does not have all the resources to do all that it wants to do. So there has to be competition to get resources. So what we are concerned with in NOA, we are almost zero funding. Let me put it that way. That is how bad it is. But is that the issue? We don't think so. The issue is, what do we want to put on the table that we want the resources to fund? So we are concentrating on bringing value. So when we are able to bring value to the table, definitely we know funding will come. Yeah, because there's competition for resources. So it depends on what agenda you have set. And of course, if you're going to bring huge value, then you're going to get huge resources. Because
when you were mentioning the capacity building of the personnel of the NOA and the numbers you called across the 36 states and the FCT, and you're saying the numbers would trickle down to the grassroots, I could just imagine the numbers. So it's good you're talking about bringing value to the table. But are you partnering with other, maybe the private sector, international community, to key into some of these aspects of that value you're talking about, maybe in the area of capacity building or technical know-how?
Yeah, like I also mentioned the fact that a lot of restructuring is ongoing within the system to be positioned so that the international partners, the local partners, the private sector, everybody can key in. And you see, what we do concerns everybody. The private sector, who do businesses in Nigeria, who make money from our society, they need peaceful environments to thrive.
Yes.
So it's our job to create that peace, to create stability. So whatever support they give, it's self-enlightened interest. It is in their own interest to ensure that we are supported, to be able to create the right environment for them, to be able to do their business and achieve their bottom line. So, but for them to do that, they must see that we are ready. They must see that truly we are capable of providing that for them. So that's what we are doing. And so as we are reconfiguring our system inward, internally, to ensure that we are positioned to be able to deliver on all of these objectives, we are also reaching out to say, come and see, this is what we are doing now. And that's, like I said, the retreat that just ended yesterday had participants from all of these very important stakeholders that you mentioned.
Okay, one of the thematic areas of the Renewed Hope agenda is social security and poverty reduction. And then we have it that statistics has that about 80% of the people, or would I say 80%, are rich. And out of this, about 30 million are persons with disabilities. And again, they need, by next year, the moratorium for the 5 years Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Act of 2018 is going to end. And then part of that is the 5% employment that should be given to persons with disability, and also accessibility in our public buildings. My question now is, what is NOA doing to sensitize institutions on these policies as regards inclusion?
Yeah, there are 1,001 things that NOA needs to sensitize people about, and this is one of the key ones. So, but how are we going to achieve that? We go back to platforms. Do we even have the platforms to engage with the people, to deliver our messages? That's why we are working seriously 24/7 to create those platforms. So when we create the platforms, then we give the people with disability a voice. They now have platform where they can get opportunity to voice their concern. And then we can also now provide them the structure, right from the federal to the grassroots, so that all this information can. And then we can also create feedback mechanism. In the 774 local government, all our officers are there. We call them COMO. That is Community Orientation and Mobilization Officer. They are in all the 774 local government as we speak. So, but are the people in the local government aware of that? Do they know how to reach them? Do they know what kind of work they do and what benefit they could get by relating with them? So we need to also enlighten people to be able to do this, including people with disabilities, so that they can also use them, because we get feedback weekly from our COMOs in all the 774 local government on myriad of issues, to ensure that we know from, you can say from each community, from each local government, what are the issues this week. And we get this across to government. So every week we drop on the table of policymakers and top government officials, both at the state and federal level, what we call pulse of the nation. So it's an opportunity to get feedback. So people with disabilities are also in this, within this conundrum, to ensure they also are able to have a voice through our platforms, to also be part of the society fully and be integrated, and ensure that what concerns them are well advertised.
It's good you just mentioned the feedback angle to this. I'm sure the angle Laraba is also seeking answers to, and I know most of persons with disabilities will want to know. I know this is the foundation level for you. You're putting structures in place, which is very good. You have to lay a strong foundation. But that sensitization, a lot of people are unaware that having access, you know, for creating access rather for persons with disabilities and, you know, for their structures, even accommodation most times. I've had interaction with some of them. Accommodation is a very huge challenge for them. And when people don't even know that they can be penalized, there is a law, it becomes a problem. While you're putting the structure in place on one hand, the area of sensitization is also very important. And you just brought out some information that I'm just hearing for the first time. So you see the power of information and awareness. So in the meantime, while that structure is ongoing, how are you going to push, you know, a bit further to ensure that this sensitization reaches every nook and cranny?
Okay, just before I came here, I just finished a meeting where I met with all the desk officers. Do we have people, a desk that is responsible for people with disability in NOA? We do. Then what do we need to do? We need to strengthen it. Okay. And we need to know, to ensure that people are aware there's a desk like that. So having a desk like that, that's where we can push out things. Whether we want to create awareness, whether we want to sensitize people. See, but it is very important, very key to whatever you want to do in terms of message delivery, to ensure that the people that are concerned are part of it. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to be shaving somebody's head in his absence.
Exactly.
So the important thing is create that platform for them to have a voice. Create the platform for them to be able to generate feedback, for us to know what are they facing in particular, a particular part of the country and things like that. So these issues of creating assets to them, the issue of ensuring that they are involved in employment and things like that as a matter of right, you know, Many people are not aware. Many people that are going to employ are not aware. Many people that are going to approve building plans, public building plans, may not be aware.
At all.
So how does it now become one of the key things to look at and say, we cannot approve this building plan because there's no access for people with disabilities? Are you going more than one floor? Do you need to provide an elevator? You know, so all these questions can only come when you create that, you know, backwardly integrated platforms that you can send message out, you can get feedback. You know, so that's, the platform is very key for them to have a voice. Yeah. And again, a desk that is solely responsible to ensure that issues that relate to them, not just them, like I said, the women, the youth, you know, the senior citizens, different categories of people, you have to create the platform for them and give them opportunity to express themselves so that people can hear them loud and clear, you know, and also for feedback to come from them back to policy makers so that adjustment can be made where necessary, you know. So we are not going to, so we are putting platform that will encourage two-way communication, not linear communication.
Okay.
Okay, I want to talk about the Japa syndrome. And I know that since the Renewed Hope agenda came in, there's a lot that has been going on. Nigeria, I think recently, I think African Footballer of the Year was won by a Nigerian and also the female. So all these good things that are happening in Nigeria, and yet we are having people still, you know, lining up in the embassies. A part of the structures that you want to put in place, is there anything that addresses the Japa syndrome?
Well, it depends on what we, or how we look at what they call Japa, which means people leaving the country in search of greener pasture. It depends on how we look at it. That idea of seeking greener pasture in itself, there's nothing wrong with it.
Migration is a right.
It's a right.
Yeah.
And see, if you know the number of Americans that are outside of America, you will be surprised. And they are outside of America not because America is not livable, but because it is part of human nature to express himself also through, you know, exploration, looking for opportunities, you know. So for various reasons, people can travel or move or relocate or migrate or come back. As people go out, people from other countries are also coming to Nigeria. But we can also not say some people are not living because they believe that chances are narrow here. So, but as much as you can accept the fact that chances are narrow, do you also think that enough has been done to be sure that where they are going it's any better? Because there are no streets in the world, anywhere in the world, where you pick it on the streets. No.
Yeah.
Anywhere you get to,
you will still work.
You will still have to work. You still have to, you know, and you are at disadvantage because you are not from there. The system will first take care of who they are. But again, when people leave, the decision to relocate from your country to another country, it's not a decision you take in 6 months. It's an issue that must have been ongoing. Before you reach that stage that you say, the only solution for me now is to leave this country. It's not something that happened within the last 6 months. It's something that has built up, and you have looked at all the alternatives over the last 1 year or more, and you see that there is no any opportunity. So the Japa that we are seeing now are actually not the fallout of what has happened since this government came. They are fallout of what has been happening over the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So what do? We have come with renewed hope. In 1 year and 2 years, Are we going to see ourselves where Nigerians and even other foreigners are now coming back? So that is where the government is focused on, to put in place policies that in 1, 2, 3 years, people will no longer see the need to just go out because of hardship alone. You can go out for other reasons. And where those who are out will see opportunities at home and then come back. But the advantage of even migration to a developing country like Nigeria is that when people go to nations that are more advanced, they acquire knowledge, they acquire skill, they return to their country with higher level of competencies, and which they bring to bear on the socio-economic situation of their country. And then Nigeria also will benefit from it.
So, Mallam Onilu, we're rounding off gradually. Then what is your message, really to Nigerians? I'm sure if I want to search Laraba's heart, part of what she's asking for the young people, opportunities, they're looking for opportunities. Now, I know that this administration is pushing hard in the aspect of promoting MSMEs for young people in terms of job creation. But when you don't have access to that information, it becomes a problem. When you don't know where to go to get that information, it becomes a problem. So going forward, as we project into a new year, what would you tell Nigerians, to have that confidence, to be patriotic, to believe in the country again, that this is what is available and this is what is in process?
Yeah, well, I will quote the president.
Okay.
I will say hope is here. Rightly said by you just now is the need to bring information to the people, especially the youth. Recently, the Ministry of Communication launched the tech products that require 3 million youth.
The MTT.
Yeah, to be part of it. Over the course of over a month, barely about 1 million of them have registered. But at NOA, we know that only about 31 million Nigerians are on the internet. On the social media, where you have 35 years and below that are over 160 million in number. But the total figure, as of today, of people on social media in Nigeria, just 31 million. So which means such information must be taken beyond the social media.
Yes.
And that's what NOA does. So what did we do? We link up with the Ministry of Communication to get all the facts and use our structure down to the grassroots to get this information to the youth. So the best step that can be taken now is to get information to people, let them see all the opportunities that are available. The Bank of Industry is there. CBN has a lot of products to support MSMEs, to support farming, to support many things. But if people are not aware, they cannot access it. So, if you're somebody who has a building to sell, selling his building just to move to another country. And that money could have been used for some other more important things that would have benefited him more if he had information. So it's a very important thing that information is provided. And that's what we are going to do at NOA.
All right. Do you have any final thoughts in a few seconds?
People should keep faith.
Okay.
People should keep faith. And they should know that NOA is back.
All right. I like the word NOA is back. Okay. Thank you so much, Mallam Lanre-Issa Onilu. He's the Director-General National Orientation Agency. We'll put our eyes on the prize. We wish you the very best, and we want to see that those necessary and vital information get to Nigerians. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much.
Laraba Mure, a reporter with the Inquirer newspaper.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you for always having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we've been discussing renewed hope and national orientation. There's a lot we have to key into. If we have to stand united as a people and tell ourselves we are patriotic Nigerians, then we should, look within and see what we can contribute to our nation for progress and prosperity. And that's Platform. I'm Ruth Aguilera. Bye.